Truth be told, I have not had a budget at my house since I had more month than I had money. I don't like budgets. I don't like being constrained, and you probably don't either. But I will tell you, as you approach your life after work, or what some people would call retirement, there are a few things more important than having a retirement budget. It frees you up to understand how much you can spend, to enjoy it more, and to eliminate and reduce unnecessary fears and frustrations. Join us on Consider This program today. We'll talk to you about how to create a retirement budget. Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Jamie Burton.
So happy to have you along. Hey, if you guys are new to the program, don't forget you can always listen to this on a podcast, anywhere you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. And if you're a radio listener, know that you're not getting the full show. So we would strongly encourage you to go to our website, yourlifeafterwork.com, or considerthisprogram.com. You can get it there. Get the podcast. We've been talking this week about the 7 different things that you need to think about as you prepare for retirement. And yes, of course, you know us, we have a checklist that you can get if you go to the website, yourlifeafterwork.com. And you can simply call if you don't want to go on that, get it that way at 800-928-4001. Jamie is in with us today. She is a Purdue grad with a degree in financial planning, and she's proud of her checklist. So you can show them, for those of you that are watching on video again, the things that you need to consider. We're happy to share that with you. It's a freebie. Part of the promises that we do to put out there for people. So what do you want to tell us about a retirement budget, Jamie?
Yeah, so when people come to us and they are thinking about retiring, what we like to have a conversation about is creating this retirement budget. This can get a little scary when you first hear the word retirement budget, because you're probably thinking that, oh no, you're going to have to start cutting back on things and not doing the things that you enjoy once you get to retirement. And that is so far from the truth. What we need to do, what we mean by the retirement budget, is we need to figure out what those expenses are going to be in retirement so we can budget for it with the assets that you've already saved. So this doesn't mean, hey, you can't go to the golf course anymore, or you can't go out with friends, you can't be treating your grandkids. We just have to make sure that we have a pretty good idea of what those expenses are going to be in retirement so we can be able to budget for them when we talk about getting you an income once you're in retirement.
The majority of you listening to the show will be shocked to hear this, but it's probably 50% of those of you who walk in that hear this radio show, read our newspaper columns, listen to our content somewhere else. About half of you were able to make life better. That's typically by reducing taxes, helping with the legacy plan, but we're able to make life better. There's 25% of you that come in that probably need to, and I mean need, if you're going to have a successful retirement, need to either save more or reposition assets. The biggest creature in the hiding in the closet usually is a misunderstanding of the tax code. Sometimes it's not understanding risk and volatility, right? But there's a good portion of you out there that have saved enough money to have a better retirement than you think. And it was always, when we introduced this idea of the retirement budget, people looked at me like, Joe, we know, we have a budget for the financial enhancement group for the business, but they know better than to think that I would really be detailed enough. That's not my cup of soup, right? To come up with this budget like Jamie has, that lists every expenditure that goes out every month. And, that's just not been what I've done. But what I've witnessed is that 3 things happen to people at retirement. One, they've already saved enough money, or they have, Jamie, the mailbox checks you talked about, and they don't need more income, so they don't want to pull it out, and they delay, and then the IRS smacks them or their kids in the head when they inherit the money. Mm-hmm. 2, they don't want to hurt their baby. They worked hard to build up that $1 million account or $2 million account, and they don't want to pull it out. And then 3, there are a group of people who are just fearful of running out. I will tell you, there's, fear is a bad thing, and if we can help you with that, we will. But go to yourlifeafterwork.com or call 800-928-4001. Get signed up for a Next Steps meeting. Jamie will sit down with you and we'll go over what that future looks like for you so that you can start getting an idea of what a retirement budget is. All right, Jamie, back to you.
Yeah, so like Joe was saying, we see in our company that a lot of times we have people that have all these assets left with not a lot of life left. And that's just not the business that we're in. We're not trying to get people to a point where they have all this money that they saved all their life for that they don't get to enjoy. So when we're creating this budget, we want to make sure that people are living the life they want to live, enjoying this money that they have saved up, and doing it in the most tax efficient way possible. So when we sit down with people and we're talking about this retirement budget, we need to look at two different kinds of expenses. So you have what's called fixed expenses and then social expenses. So the fixed expenses are expenses that you're most likely going to continue to have all through retirement. So you have your utilities, your cell phone bill, your cable bill, expenses that are just going to continue to come in month to month. You're just not going to get rid of them. So we need to make sure to budget for those. Then we have what are called your social expenses. So are you planning on traveling? Are you planning on going out to eat with friends? Do you have a golf membership that you're going to continue to keep up with there? There's different expenses that you're doing that are fun that probably are going to be higher once you first retire and then taper off over time once you've gone, experience the things you want to see and do the things you want to do, and now you're kind of cutting back on those. So those are the two kinds of expenses that we budget for. Typically, the fixed expenses, they inflate over time. And like I said, the social expenses kind of taper off because you start doing less in retirement. So those are the two things that we really focus on.
Yeah. So a lot of you are charitably inclined, and keep in mind, this is just a rule that I teach the churches that we work with and other places. You know, people tend to give out of income, not out of assets. So you've got $1 million in your 401k account, and you're making $100,000 a year, and you give $10,000 to your church. Right now, I'm not telling you those are all three right things. I'm just telling you that's what I see happen a lot. Right. And all of a sudden you get to retirement and suddenly your income is now $40,000 a year because you don't need the 100. Remember, you're trying to replace your standard of living. And now your income at $40,000 and you're giving the church $4,000. Some of you are okay with that. Your churches generally are not. Your charities, they kind of rely on that money. Some of you are okay with that. Some of you are not. But it's one of those things that you need to consider that Jamie will help you walk through. You know, so that you're either using donor-advised funds or making the double stack or charitable contributions that we will help you understand, where you already have a budget that's put in place to be able to provide that future income to your church or charity if that's what you choose to do. The whole point here is to being able to have options. And I think when people hear the word retirement budget, Jamie, they think we're limiting their amount of income. And I really want you to hear what she said. It is depressing for me to be in this industry and watch people have lots of money left and not lots of life left. Now, if they didn't need the money and they didn't want to spend it, it's my job, my team's job, to squeeze every penny out of every nickel that you have, right? But we are not here to help teach people to hoard. You know, if you're spending too much money at retirement or if you think your spouse is spending too much money, I'll tell you. We've had situations, one of you listens to the show every week, where I sit down and said, listen, you're saving too much. It was going to lead to a divorce. It was creating frustration between he and his spouse, and it wasn't necessary. He'd already done enough, but you can get addicted to some of this stuff, right? And just because you have extra money, I know, doesn't mean you need to go spend it or be frivolous or go buy a car that you don't need or want. I get all that. You know, let's be as prudent with what we have as we can, but let's not live in a world of fear. And if I can help, or the team can help you liberate some of your retirement funds so that you know you're not going to run out, we're doing it in the most tax efficient manner possible and giving you the life that you've earned, that's what we want to do, right? Go to yourlifeafterwork.com, get signed up for a Next Steps meeting. Jamie will give you 90 minutes of her time, give you things to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if you choose to partner together, what FEG will do for you, and she will put it into writing. What else would you like to add to this, Jamie?
Yeah, so a lot of times, not a lot of times, but some of the times when people come in, they see the income that they have coming in automatically. So what we call those mailbox checks. We see that they have Social Security coming in and maybe a couple pensions. And then they just have a small amount that they need to draw from their assets to be able to replace that standard of living. But then when we see people that have so much extra assets they're not ever going to have to live off of, and it's going to start hurting them come required minimum distribution age at the age of 72, when the IRS says, okay, now you have to start taking a percentage of that account out every year for the rest of your life. And they're like, well, we don't need this income. What am I supposed to do with this? That's when we sit down and figure out what long-term goals are for these families coming in. Are they charitably inclined? Do they want to be gifting to a church or to a charity? Or is it really just in their hearts to be leaving all of these assets to their kids or somebody that they care about? What can we do from a tax planning standpoint to unwind some of those assets so we don't get in a sticky situation at that point in time?
Yeah, you have to remember, all assets are not equal. There's tax deferred, there's tax free, and there's money that's taxed every year if you recognize gains, dividends, or interest. And all beneficiaries are not equal. Your kids are probably not equal relative to your tax return, or even if you have multiple children, their tax returns may be very dissimilar. And the same for a not-for-profit. And so you really do want to think these strategies through in terms of how that money looks. An hour of planning here it just really, really can save you a lot of time and a lot of energy as you move forward into retirement. And there's just a lot to be said about being more clear. We call it cascading clarity at the Financial Enhancement Group, where we want to make sure that everybody on the team knows what it is we're thinking, why it is we're thinking that. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to this show and you're hearing me talk about it or hearing Jamie talk about it. These are the same conversations you're going to get from Aaron and Grant and Dean and Chris and the planning team. All work together on these topics, these concepts. We get together very, very specifically to make sure that you're getting the same message. So it doesn't matter if one of us is on vacation or dead. You've got the same process, and it's all working in order. Get yours going down. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com or call 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We really look forward to meeting you. 90 minutes. You can learn a whole lot, and we are happy to help. Again, it's 800-928-4001 or yourlifeafterwork.com. We look forward to seeing you soon.